Let's continue with PSY questions part 6. Introduction of an aversive stimuli aimed at reducing the rate of unwanted behaviors called teaching, controlling, punishment, re-stimulation. When we get to introduce an aversive stimulus to reduce the rate of unwanted behavior, that is called punishment. For example, if you do this, we are going to beat you. That is a punishment to reduce unwanted behavior, different from negative reinforcement, where you remove the aversive stimulus to promote behavior. For example, will not punish you even if you come late. So it is going to encourage a behavior. All right. A reinforcer is any event or stimulus that strengthens or increases the frequency of a behavior. True or false? So this is true. For example, if you obey, will give you money. Money is going to be referred to as a reinforcer. The following are stages of cognitive development proposed by the Piaget's theory except formal operation stage, concrete operation stage, sensory operation stage, or sensory motor stage, adulthood stage, pre-operation stage. Now, Piaget proposed the cognitive development theory in which he studied the behavior of children, and he split this into five different stages, or let me say four different stages. The first one being the sensory motor stage from 0 to about 2 years, in which children cannot are mostly interested, or what gives them much happiness is what goes in their mouth, so they are more interested in eating. The next being the pre-operation stage, about 2 to 7 or 8 years, where now children cannot control themselves. Mostly they can poop on themselves. They can't control themselves. And in this stage, the pre-operation stage, children are attracted to the opposite sex. Girls are attracted to their fathers, and boys are attracted to their mothers. That is the pre-operation stage. Then we go to the concrete operation stage, about 7 years to somewhere 12 years. In this stage, now children begin to split. They are more attracted to the same sex. Boys are interested in playing more with other fellow boys, and also girls like that, right? And then from that one, we now have the formal stage from 12 years to adulthood. Now, in this stage, what really happens? So, in this stage, this is now growth. A person is now grown, they are able to control themselves and everything else like that. So, these are the four stages. So, D is not part of that. The adulthood stage is not part of these stages of cognitive development that was proposed by Piaget's theory. In what stage of cognitive development can children become more logical and can think about concrete objects, and even more systematically they develop conservation skills and the ability to perform mental operations, but abstract thinking is still challenging? So this is okay. We have got the options: formal operation stage, concrete operation stage, sensory motor stage, pre-operation stage. What would you pick? So this is the concrete operation stage from about 7 to somewhere 12 years. At this point, children are able to analyze things. Although abstract thinking is still challenging, they are still getting to grow. They have not yet reached puberty. Around dash years, infants explore the world primarily through their senses and affections. 12 to adulthood, 7 to 12, 2 to 7 or 8, 0 to 2. So children more explore the world via their senses and actions from 0 to 2 years. Dash is an experience or feeling that one can almost remember some information he or she wishes to retrieve from memory. The retrieval phenomenon, tip of the tongue phenomenon, the remembrance phenomenon, none of these. So the tip of the tongue phenomenon tells us that you can actually remember what you want to remember. What you don't want to remember, you'll not remember it. Dash occurs when you forget to do something you had planned to accomplish. For example, you say, if I go in town, I'm going to buy oranges. When you reach town, you forget to buy oranges. Prospective memory, repression, intentional forgetting, all of this. What would you say for that one? Okay. Next one, intelligence is the unique propensity of human being to change or modify the structure of their cognitive functioning to adapt to the changing demand of a life situation according to. So in other words, this definition of intelligence is according to with psychologists. So I'd put this so that it just gets to open our minds. We consider also some important theories and who proposed some important theories in case they were also asked like that. Now, every time we think about getting to adapt, so this one is talking about us being able to adapt. Every time we talk about being able to adapt to changing demands of life and modifying maybe what we understand, that is, we should think about Reuven Fierstein. Reuven Fierstein tells us that being intelligent is actually being able to modify what you know and being able to adapt to the changing needs in society. So every time you think about that, think about Reuven. According to Howard Gardner. Now, Howard Gardner is one of the prominent psychologists, and every time you think about Howard Gardner and his theory about intelligence, think about being good at your own skill. So, what Gardner tells us that you are intelligent if you are good at your own skill and you can actually learn new things to improve your skill. So, that is B. A human intellectual competence must entail a set of skills of problem solving, enabling the individual to resolve genuine problems or difficulties that he or she encounters, and when appropriate, to create an effective product, and must also entail the potential for finding or creating problems and or creating problems there and thereby laying the ground for the acquisition of new knowledge. Monza is a 21-year-old man who is mostly found to be weird in his behavior. He plays with children and cries if you get anything from him. Psychologist determines his mental age as 14. What is his IQ? What is mental age? So when you talk about age, we do have our mental age and our chronological age. Chronological age is my actual age. In this case, Monza is 21. Mental age is how you behave. This one behaves like a 2-year-old. This one behaves like an adult. That is the mental age. So someone can be their mental age can be beyond their chronological age or below their chronological age. In this case, Monza's age is below. So to calculate IQ is given as mental age divided by chronological age multiplied by 100. So 14 out of 21 times 100. That will give us 66.66, and that is around 67. Now the normal IQ is supposed to be like from somewhere 70 to somewhere 100. That is normal. Below a 70, that is going to mean there's something wrong. And above, let's say 116, those are the most, we can say, the gifted ones. All right. So if someone has got an IQ of, let's say, very much low IQ, Can either be mental retardation or dementia. Dementia is just having problems with getting to analyze situation and that. Now, mental retardation can also be split into either mild mental retardation, moderate mental retardation, or serious mental retardation. Now, we've already said that someone has got an IQ that is a less than 70. So if it is from 50 to 69, that is mild mental retardation. From about 35 to 49, that is moderate mental retardation. And then serious mental retardation is having an IQ from 20 to somewhere 34. So we can see 20 to 34, 35 to 49, 50 to 69. Mild, moderate, and serious mental retardation. All right. So next question. Someone with a moderate mental retardation has IQ of 50 to 69, 35 to 49, 20 to 34, 12 to 20. So we already mentioned this one. What one? Which one would you pick? All right, that is B, 35 to 49. Someone with an IQ of 22 is most likely to be suffering from dementia, moderate mental retardation, mild mental retardation, serious mental retardation. So 22, we can see where does it fall. Is it between 20 and 34, 35 to 30, 49, 50 to 69? So this one is falling between 20 to 34. And this is a serious mental retardation. Okay. 137. According to the dash of intelligence, intelligence is not fixed at birth, but is flexible and could be influenced by the environment to which a child is exposed to, and a person's intelligence increases with age. So these are intelligence theories. What theory tells us that really you are not born intelligence, but your intelligence is going to be affected by your environment and as you get to grow. All right, so here the options we have: Sternberg, Lewis. Sorry, am I reading the? All right, that's correct. Sternberg, Lewis, Thurston, Howard Gardner, Alfred Binet. So every time we think about intelligence not being fixed at birth, but something that can be influenced by environment and as we get to grow, think about Alfred Binet. So what does it tell us? Alfred Binet believed that intelligence could be something that gets to grow. Actually, for him, it tells us that intelligence is going to increase with age, that is mental age and also chronological age. So as you get to grow in the age of your body, you should also grow in the way you get to analyze situations. 138. Das view of intelligence includes a number of intellectual skills, abilities, or intelligences that are relatively independent of one another or multiple intelligence. So, who talks about multiple intelligence and says skills and abilities is actually intelligence? So, that is Gardner. Okay, Gardner. Now, for this one, I can see I'd put the same option twice. So, that is Howard Gardner, B or D. 139. Dash theory explains that three different aspects of intelligence accounts for human intellectual abilities. That is analytical abilities, practical abilities, and creative abilities. Who tells us that intelligence is not just one thing? It actually talks about three things: analytical abilities, practical abilities, and also creative abilities. So every time we think about that, think about Sternberg. It is actually called the Sternberg's triarchic theory. Tri means three. So actually someone to be described as intelligent according to Sternberg He says they should have analytical abilities, being able to use their cognitive abilities. Cognitive has to do with thinking, memory, being able to use your cognitive ability to solve familiar problems. That is analytical abilities. Practical abilities is application of existing knowledge to everyday problems. And then creative abilities is a bit required for new and imaginative ways of thinking about the problems. You are creative. Practical is applying your knowledge in everyday problems. Analytical is being able to use thinking to solve familiar problems. So we have already answered that one. It is, which option is that also? Okay, it is, I bet that is 139. Theory explains three different ones. So we have said that is Robert Sternberg's triarchic. According to Thankstone's group factor theory of intelligence, dash, no single factor accounts for intelligence. Intelligence is a cluster of abilities, both none. So Thankstone, this is, it proposes theory to say no single factor is going to account for intelligence. Intelligence has to do with a lot and a lot of things. So that is, intelligence is a cluster of things. That is what he says. So this has to do, for him, he says, also just verbal fluency, being able to rapidly produce words is intelligence. Also perceptual speed, that is the ability to accurately and completely compare letters. That is also intelligence. Letters, pictures, objects, being able to compare them accurately. Numerical factor, ability to compute simple arithmetic problems. That is intelligence. Memory factor, being able to recall of paired words, word recognition. That is intelligence. Adaptive reasoning factor, ability to generalize reasoning. That is, or intelligence. Deductive reasoning, ability to use the generalized result correctly. Ability to to be solving problems. That is intelligence. So according to him, he says intelligence has to do with a lot of things instead of one. That is Tham, Thurston's group factor theory. A bioecological theory of intelligence was coined by bioecological theory of intelligence was coined by Blue for Brofimbrina and Cis, Robert Steinberg's triarchic, Howard Gardner, Alfred Binet. Now, obviously, we've talked about these others. We have not talked about the first one. So every time you think about intelligence as being able to relate with the environment. So according to the bioecological theory of intelligence proposed by Brofembrina and Sess, the theory suggests that intelligence develops as a result of interaction between the biological dispositions, that is our environment, and also ourselves. According to Dash, environmental and biological events do affect intelligence depending on the course of the lifespan at which it happens. Brofembrina and Cis, Robert Steinberg, Triarchic, Howard Gardner, Alfred. So this is actually just a definition of the bioecological theory of intelligence proposed by Brofembrina and Cis. Jen learned about communication skills and how to handle patients in any given mood. When she went on a medical practice, a patient shouted at her because he stood in the queue too long but saw a well-dressed person entering her office. She has never been in such a scenario, but instead of responding openly, she called the client and explained what was happening, and he left happily. Jane had. So, this is a scenario. Jane is a medical doctor, has never experienced this. The patient is waiting in the line and then sees another person just going in front and enters the office. The patient didn't know that maybe that person who entered the office maybe was also a medical doctor or something like that. So the patient is upset and starts shouting at Jen. But instead of her answering back, she calls the patient and says, let's talk. So, what was Jen portraying? Creative abilities, practical abilities, analytical abilities, knowledge. What would you pick? Now, as we already mentioned, what are these abilities? Let's just maybe talk about them and then we'll be able to answer. Analytical abilities is the use of cognitive ability to solve familiar problems. Familiar problems. For example, you have learned something, but you have never been in such a circumstance. When you've been involved in such a one, you're able to solve that because you can apply. That is analytical. Practical abilities is the application of existing knowledge to everyday practical problems. You already have some knowledge, now you want to apply it to everyday practical problems. Creative ability is the ability to required for new and imaginative ways of thinking about a problem. So which one would you pick? So we can best go with practical abilities. You have got knowledge, but you apply it to day living. Why have I not picked analytical abilities? Analytical has to do with, of course, you are using your reasoning to solve familiar problems. You have encountered something similar, but you are using at least something similar that you have encountered, you are applying now to a new circumstance that you are in. For example, you have ever encountered a question, let's say in logarithms, but in the exam they brought a different a different question, but you know how to solve such questions, so you are going to use analytical abilities. Mary is a second year medical school student preparing for her final exams. When she saw a complex scenario question in anatomy, she methodically broke it down to understand from what topic it was and what was required of her, and applies relevant knowledge and answered it accurately. Mary had creative abilities, practical abilities, analytical abilities, knowledge. So these are now analytical abilities. You have ever For Mary, she sees a complex scenario question. She gets to break it down and understand it well, and then gets to apply relevant knowledge. She already has some knowledge, she applies it. That is analytical. Vupe has learned how to talk to patients effectively, which an engineering student might not manage. According to Charles Spearman's two-factor theory of intelligence, that is, G factor, S factor, K factor, A factor. What does Charles Spearman's two-factor theory state? So as we can even hear, it's the two-factor theory. Now, according to Charles Spearman, it says intelligence consists of two abilities, the G, which means general, and the S, which means special. Now, the general, which is the G, is inborn abilities. You are born with it. It again differs from individual to individual, and it is used in our everyday life. While the S factor is learned and acquired, you are not born with it, and it's going to vary also from individual to individual and from activity to activity. So when you talk about the G factor, it is general mental ability towards different tasks, but the S factor is a specific capability or capacity that helps a person to deal with special problems or specific problems. G factor remains constant while S factor varies. So that is according to Charles. So now what can we pick for this one? Wope has learned. So meaning she wasn't born with this ability. So that is the S factor, special. Dash proposed that general intelligence is a collection of perhaps 100 abilities working together in various ways in different people to bring out different intelligences, and separates these abilities broadly into two sets of abilities, that is of fluid and crystallized intelligence. Now, every time we are talking about fluid and crystallized intelligence, we should think about Horn. So Horn proposed the fluid and crystallized intelligence. What does it tell us? It tells us that intelligence is made up of a lot and a lot of things, and it divides them into basically two: fluid abilities, which talk about us being able to. This one talks about the ability to think and act quickly. That is fluid abilities to solve novel problems. You have never been in this circumstance. That is a novel problem, but you find it. You should be able to do something. Okay. And it is independent of education. You don't have to be educated for you to be able to do it. That is the fluid ability. Now, if you talk about crystallized ability, this has to do with learned or acquired capacity. You can only solve some problems if you are specialized. All right. So that is it. So in this case, we have answered that is Cartier horn. Dash is grounded in physiological efficiency and is relatively independent of education and acculturation. Fluid abilities, crystallized ability, intelligence, skills, goodwill. Which one would you pick? So that is called fluid abilities, independent of education. Dash is the distinct trait, thoughts, feelings, actions, and characteristics of an individual that differentiates him from other individuals. Intelligence, learning, personality, skills. So that is called personality. What differentiates me from the next person is my personality. Okay. And of course, also on personality, there are a lot of things that we should be able to understand, different theories that have been proposed by different people, just to make sure that we understand the personality of individuals. James is a peaceful and calm lad. He belongs to sanguine, choleric, melancholic, phlegmatic. What is his personality? Is peaceful and calm. What personality does he belong to? Now, just to understand these personalities, just to say something about them, of course, we know there are four of them: the sanguine, the choleric, the melancholic, peaceful, just to help us to remember them. The sanguine, remember S with sociable. So these are sociable people. They have got high spirit. These are sociable. And they are merry. Like sociable, you expect them to be that jovial, outgoing. And then if you talk about the choleric, they see think about confidence. So these are confident, they have got leadership qualities, the choleric. And they are also think of the C as charming, chief. Okay, they sometimes can be really scary. Those are the choleric. When they are of course upset, they can be scary. They are also assertive because they have got leadership qualities also. All right. And then the next one, which is the melancholic, think of M being meditate. So melancholic, think of meditate. So these are the ones who go in deep thoughts. They are very much thoughtful people. They pursue deep thoughts. All right. And then the phlegmatic, the P there, think of peace. So just think of peace from the P. So meaning that these are peacemakers, these are calm people, these are steady. Okay, so that is it. Now we can answer the question. Dash is a distinct trait. Thoughts. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. James is a passive and calm lead. So you can see passive and calm. Then what is going to be the answer? All right. So passive and calm, we have mentioned those who are passive and calm being on the phlegmatic. Think of just the P, passive and calm, phlegmatic. All right. So that is where we're going to end for this tutorial and see you in the next